Hello, Haley.
Hello, dear Brian. I'm very excited to speak to you today. As I mentioned, it's so nice to see familiar faces and sort of like have my little world with me.
Yes. And that's all we've got. I mean,
Mhm.
is our little world. And sometimes people, move out and on, and sometimes people join the journey, but that's all we've got.
Yeah,
And it starts with loving ourselves and then welcoming whoever wants to be around us as long as they um, share loving kindness as
yeah,
their primary uh, intention.
yeah.
So I had an interesting experience. I'm not sure. I didn't ask you, is there something particular that you would like to talk about today?
Not really. I'm more interested in hearing about your experience.
Well, uh, it was fascinating to me in that I was invited to speak to a group called Boston Prime Timers. It's an organization in Boston for men my age who are gay, and they have meetings and lunches, and they go on trips to Gay Pride in Toronto, uh, and so I did it virtually. I told them I couldn't fly, uh, but I did it virtually, and before I started, they doubled the amount of time they wanted me to
Oh,
speak.
wow.
Yeah. So it was a good I did a good job. I was really happy with, what I shared and how I shared it. And I shared a lot about my time in Boston as the mayor's liaison to the gay community. And in my life, Haley, that time is huge. I mean, it's huge in my story. If you read my book, you'll see it. It's talking about, um, after the guy burned the Bible and the cauldron when he was doing a gay pride speech, and I was brought up to counter what he said and did, and starting the mayor's task force on AIDS, coordinating. There was just a lot, people plastering my face on trees in the Boston Common, saying, Brian invites you to a public orgy. I think I've told you that. And so none of them were familiar with it. And they all are in Boston and they're all my age. And there was only one person who, during the, reflection or comments or questions, um, remembered the event where the Bible was burned, but he didn't remember that it was me, who was brought up afterwards to speak. And so, again, I was really pleased, and they were very pleased. They were a nice audience. They clapped a lot. I didn't hear it because, I
Hmm.
was on screen. But when we got off and Ray said, "Did you see any people you knew?" I didn't know anyone except one trans man who is transgender who made an effort to be there because he heard I was speaking. But then I realized that this very big, colossal point in my life that I thought was life-changing for the gay people in Boston. I just thought, my being there was really, really important to them getting through the AIDS crisis and them, feeling secure in the mayor's attention to them. But none of these guys had even heard of it, and they thanked me for giving them the history of Boston's, gay when I was there, 82 to 84. I mean, I lived there for 20 years, for
Hmm.
16 years, but for the two that I was the mayor's liaison. So it was a great follow-up for me personally to the posts that I did on Facebook about obscurity and that we need to embrace the fact that no one's going to remember our name and no one's going to remember what we did uh, after we're gone. And some, as clearly in Boston, didn't know who I was or what I did. And it's a when I posted on Facebook about how I was having coffee with this gay legend, and and at the bottom I said, "You'll forget his name when you go to the next post." I said, all the people, if I ask my nephews and nieces, who was Anita Bryant, who was, and then I would Harvey Milk, who was, they don't have a clue who these people were because they were not, and I'm not a player in their drama, you know.
Mm-hmm.
As my friend Gregory McGuire wrote on Facebook, uh, we think that everybody's a character in our drama, but
Mm-hmm.
we're the main character. But in their lives, they're the main
Yep.
character, and we're just bit players.
Mm-hmm. We're
And
fleeting.
yeah, and we are, and we can be replaced. So it's and I'm not sure you can take it in when you're in the midst of it. When you're
No.
working hard to sell your books or you're working hard, hoping to get invited to speak. Uh, when you're in the midst of it, you think this is the biggest thing since sliced bread.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But in other person's worlds, um, they said, "Yeah, I remember a gay guy speaking to us at the NSA. I don't remember his name, but he did a good job." And so, for me, it was huge,
Yep.
and I know it changed people's lives because they contacted me, but not everybody, you know. And
I'm
so I'm going through a period right now, and then I'm going to be quiet. I'm going through a period right now of acknowledging all of that to myself and 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 accepting,
mm-hmm.
that uh, what I've got is what you said in the very beginning. I've got my small circle, and that's my garden, and that's where my attention is, and
Yep.
um, they'll miss me when I'm gone. Uh, but the big world that I, you know, thought that I had great influence on, won't remember or the name and I think that's,
Well, it's a different world now.
yeah, yeah,
I think this very much ties into something that I kind of wanted to talk about, but didn't really have great words to put it together, which is sort of the how everybody's perspective is very specific to their perspective. Like the information and the stories that we need to validate our perspective tend to come to us. And I think, that's why it's so important to stay open minded, to stay curious, so that you're kind of checking what's coming into your world and what's sort of keeping you humble. And I think it's like the human experience is so humbling because
yeah.
even if you think that you are incredibly significant and your main motivation is to create the significance and maintain the significance, there's always this moment that comes along and I was like, nobody really cares. And we kind of have to sit with that and be like, all right, who am I if nobody cares who I am?
And I think laugh with it, you know,
I think that's
la
what we have to do. Like, I think humor comes from humility.
uh-huh.
There's great humor in those humbling moments where we can just sit back and be like, oh boy.
Oh boy, you know, and there's nothing wrong with thinking during your time on stage that it's really important and you're making a big difference. There's nothing wrong with feeling that. You need to feel it in order for your ego to get you on stage next
To do
time.
it.
Yeah, because you need help getting up
Mm-hmm.
there. But but it is fun challenging but fun to sit back and laugh at how serious you still are about it.
Yeah. And how much, there's a wonderful quote by Henry Thoreau, which is, I'm going to read it to you because it's been so important. The price of anything is the amount of life you exchange for it.
The amount of life.
You exchange for it. That's the price. It's not money, it's how much life you're giving up in that moment.
Yes.
I think when we're reminiscing or being nostalgic about the past, we have to be conscious of how much life we're giving up in the present to be in the past and kind of having our moments, like trying to reignite the limelight.
Right.
I agree with you. I think it's very important that we are looking back with a sense of pride and a sense of I did a good job because I think that helps us to build our confidence. It helps us to do things now in the future. Like if I could do that, I can do this.
Yes.
So I think it's
Yeah.
important to have our moments, but I also think it's important for us to be fully present where the power is and to be with our people and to realize that that was my world back then. That was the story and that was the play. And those were the like walk on cast members and the long term cast members. But now we're in a different series and a different movie, and it's being present with those people,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
ultimately in 10 years' time, we're going to look back and be like, oh my God, remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I think we need to be aware of the past, but also aware that we were very different people
Mm-hmm.
when at that time. In the very beginning, I was scared to death of getting on stage, and I knew that I was there to get their approval.
Yeah.
And then as my life went on and my confidence grew and my self-awareness, right, and my spirituality deepened uh, towards well, by the last third of my career, I had full confidence. I knew that I knew what I was doing, and I knew that I was the
It was
best
the
they were
right
going
thing
to
to do.
get, and that I was the best that they were going to get at the
Mm-hmm.
time. But
Yeah.
then, things change. My voice changes. Travel changes because of COVID. The world changes,
And now
as
we
you said.
have, it's a very interesting, there's now like a psychiatric and psychological study around sort of how people are now influenced by things that are really not true versus perhaps in your time, it was a real person who had real experience, who was using their real voice based on real experience. And now, when you look at where we are as a civilization, we're very much influenced by who's on our phone. We don't know, very rarely do they actually have the life experience to speak. More often than not, they are plagiarizing and they've picked up on somebody else's viral moment and now they're turning it into their viral moment. So there is, I think it's important to kind of sit back and to acknowledge the world that we're in and also to kind of come to an acceptance of I don't want to play in that world. Like I can absolutely chase significance and be a big shot. But again, the price of that has changed.
It has in terms of what, you're willing to let go of, right?
Mm-hmm.
To have what you're seeking.
Yeah.
And the whole message of the Tao Te Ching is don't seek, you
Mm-mm.
know, just be. Let the world
Let it
be.
come.
Don't change the world. Don't try. How many species are extinct because we meddled? And they become extinct constantly because we introduce things uh, like feral cats that would eat the chicks,
I mean, look at the malaria mosquitoes and the anti-malaria mosquitoes and the ticks now.
Yeah,
There's a lot that we've meddled into. And I think, again, it's people chasing significance. And I think, it's part of their story, part of their perspective in terms of this is what I'm supposed to do. This is
yeah.
my purpose.
And right now, I'm sort of um, meandering. I sort of I don't know what my next thing is. So the voice that I get from my morning readings is relax.
Hmm.
For everything there is a season,
Yep.
you know.
Soften.
Yeah, and that's a comforting, uh,
It's
you
very
know,
comforting. It's tough. It's tough to do in practice.
it is tough, but it's comforting
Hmm.
when you're resting and you're anxious about it because you think I'm a doer, I'm a human doer, not a human being. Uh, I don't know what to do. And then the reading says, relax.
Relax. There's nothing
It'll
to do. Just be.
just be and it'll come to you. And, one of the things I, the, on my walk, Haley, there's a line of those orange cones, that they use
In
on
the traffic.
traffic, right? And they've put them up a whole long section of people's lawns to protect them from the big tractors that are coming in to build this huge complex. And every day, well, not every day, but twice, uh, I've walked along and the last cone has been on the ground. Now, I know that tons of people have walked by that cone. And so I set it upright. I don't look around to see if anyone sees me doing it. It's just I can't walk by it and not do it, right? It's like walking by some trash that's in the street and not, figuring out a way to pick it up and get rid of it because you're a participant in the universe's efforts, to create in everybody's lives uh, happy order.
And I think
And
carry on.
so I walked by it last night. It was down again. So I straightened it. And I can't help myself, when it comes to doing stuff like I can't. It's just, it happens automatically. So maybe that's what I'm going to end up being, and end up doing for the remainder of my life is
Just making your world beautiful.
yeah, straightening up those orange cones.
But I always wonder with that is like how many people actually saw the cone. And yes, I
So,
think that there are people that see the cone and just like not my problem and they walk by. But also, how many people actually see the cone?
uh-huh.
So that, like, I always wonder about that when I see butterflies. I'm like, am I the only one that sees this, or are other people seeing it?
Yeah.
So I always wonder about that from sort of a very quantum, metaphysical, mechanics sort of thing. And then I think it's also a reflection of how important your world is to you, because that cone is in your world.
Hmm.
And I
It
think if
is.
you have a reverence for your world and the world that you are creating, which is, the Brian McNaught world, the Haley Evans world, is not the globe, the earth. I think you want to beautify your space. You want to have a sense of order. And alternatively, there's some people that are just like, the order scares me, I need chaos.
And not only do I hope for some order, because I don't want somebody else to walk along and have an upset experience. A lot of people wouldn't write the cone because of fear of getting, Ebola. That they're going to get sick by touching it. But the other thing I really need in my world is for that every person I encounter um, experiences the effort on my part to uh, make their world a little happier that day. You know, saying hi to people who
Yeah.
don't really want to say hi, uh, stepping out of the way for people who won't say thank you. Uh, you just sort of want to do the right thing.
And I think when we go back to, did your life only mean something when you were giving talks to thousands of people on a big stage? I think it's like looking back now and being able to see, like, well, you're still talking to people. people. It's just on an individual basis now.
Yeah, and
I would
through
imagine that in
social
a
media,
week, maybe in a month, you're interacting with 1,000 people
through Facebook, I am.
through Facebook, through the grocery store, drive,
Yeah,
just like in everyday things that we don't really pay attention to.
movie theater.
Yeah, we're interacting with auditoriums of people.
Yeah, we are.
And I think, that's where we have to have a bit of humility and to be like, it might not look like a stadium that I'm doing it exactly one time, but I am impacting a stadium full of people every single week.
Yes. And I don't sit and I mean I think it's really important to be reminded of that by, someone like you or someone like me helping others realize it. But once I hear it and I let go of it because I don't
Mhm.
want,
Because then yeah,
that's not my intention.
and I think
Not,
that comes with lived experience or maturity, I guess, is that you realize that it's not that big a deal. You're just doing it because you enjoy it for the love of it. You're not doing it for the significance of it.
yes. Yeah, that you're participating in the blooming.
Yeah. And I think that's, the maturity or the acceptance of consciousness. Exactly what the Tao Te says is you, excuse the dogs. We come to a place when we want to be curious, we want to do work on ourselves, we want to go on the journey, that we change our motivations. And we realize that in changing those motivations, we go from a very sort of forceful, I have to do, it's not getting done unless I do it, into that softer being of allowing. It'll come. If it's meant for me, it'll come. And I
Uh-huh.
think, at least it is difficult to kind of make that transition and keep leaning towards the allowing, the softer space, but it always feels so much more peaceful. And it is very fleeting because I'm not holding on to it. It's just like, oh, that was great. No, no, this is great. And I think, that's the motivation is that peace that you feel, that just softness of openness versus the very sort of like, I have to do, I have to do. I have to make something happen. I have to monetize this, or I have to get 100 followers, or I have to be significant, or people have to know who I am.
And you have to keep checking in on yourself with that because it's very easy to keep checking how many likes what you said had
Mhm. In
or
itself
who.
is very humbling. I
Yeah,
mean, we've spoken
it
about this
is.
before when we post things that we think are so enlightening and nobody gets it.
Yeah, put a picture of the dog up and you get 1,000 likes. Oh, he's so cute. Haley, this is a bit of a shift, but it's part of that how we change. There was a period of time in my life, as I think in most spiritual uh, pilgrims, that I read tons of books,
Mhm.
mostly Buddhist, Pema Chodron and Thich Nhat Hanh, and you know, I did book after book after book after book. Somebody recommend a book, I'd read it, and I'm not reading any of them
I'm
right
not
now.
even.
And I'm thinking, wait a second, but the Tao says, don't try to be the sage.
Mhm.
A sage doesn't work to be a sage. A sage is wise because they know that they don't need to chase after wisdom,
Mhm. They have to
experience life and have the wisdom come through their experiences
yeah,
and
to
their
tap into the internal
awareness.
wisdom. I very much agree with you. I stopped reading like that, where it was just book after book, and I need more books because I need to know more. I need to be smarter. I need
Right.
to be more intellectual. I stopped reading like that several years ago because I had a teacher at the time, and she was very clear about like you have to be clear about where you were living based on influence of the book versus living off your own intuition.
Yeah.
And she was
Yeah.
very much like, there comes a point where you have to exactly to what you're saying. You have to be your own sage. You have
Yeah.
to have the courage to say, I don't know how to do this. Let me sit and figure it out versus give me a book. Let me figure out somebody else's way.
Yeah, right. Let them tell me what to do
Yeah.
rather than take the time to figure it out yourself.
And
And go ahead.
it's not to say that books are not helpful because I wouldn't be where I am today without books. I
Nor would
love
I.
books. And
Yep.
I will still read a good book, but it's just not like 5 books in a week.
Yep. Well, I do 5 books in a week, but they're all romance novels. But but they're not, and I'll look at the stack of, books by Pema Chodron that are sitting next to me and thinking I should, you know, or the Sedona method. I don't know if you've read that.
We spoke about
Yeah,
that.
yep, yep, we did. Uh, and I stopped reading it, even though I agreed with it. I just sort of, it got lost in the shuffle, even though I agreed and really thought it was an important book. Uh, and I think we need to accept that's the way life is, and that's the way we grow.
I think that's the way we grow, and I don't know if it's the same for you, but I have my favorite books. Pima Children is in that list of books that just really sort of changed me and changed my
Uh-huh.
perspective. I don't read them again, but I do see them. And I'm like, I have such a warmth for them. And just seeing the book or hearing her name is enough for me to be sort of like reinvigorated. I'm like, okay, let's get back on
Yeah,
the game.
yeah. The message that she put out that made me think was, run to the places that scare you.
Yeah.
That instead of run away, run to them because that's where the life lesson is.
Yeah. She was fundamental in fear.
Uh-huh. And Thich Nhat Hanh was fundamental in my life, in taking it one step at a time. You know,
He
you, it would take him 45 minutes to eat a cookie.
I used to read a lot of the Dalai Lama, and I still find his reading difficult to grasp. Thich
Yeah.
Nhat Hanh's writing and especially his lessons on Buddhism, just I absorb them so much easier and so much quicker. And for him, it was the softness. It's the doing dishes as a meditation,
Yes.
going for a walk as a meditation, like being present and just being softly, like every footstep, softly, softly, softly.
Yes.
And I hear that so much because I am very much working on softening. I hear that so much, like just his little voice, like soften your footsteps, soften your footsteps, soften your footstep.
And the Tao talks about, that which is new, uh, and pliant, doesn't break. If
Mm-hmm.
you're old and stuck, in your ways, you're brittle,
Yeah.
and you break easily. So be aware of what you're grasping. Are you afraid of letting go?
Oh, it's such a, and I think that's, full circle back to what we're talking about when we sort of have those nostalgic moments and we look back in our life and we think, oh my God, I had so much energy, or look how like such a go-getter I was, and look at me now. I think it's such a grand lesson in just softening and letting things be and having the gratitude for where we came from, but also realizing that that was just a tiny step in who we are today.
Well, Hugo and the dogs are all new for you.
Yeah.
That really had to be initially a challenge. And now, my guess is that you wouldn't change a thing, that your life feels really right now.
And I think, I do have moments where I'm like, what would my life be without this? And I
Yes.
always have moments where I feel like, I'll still be okay. I'll be okay. But I'm good with them here. And that almost is like sort of this thing that I do to just really be fully present with like, how blessed are we to have these moments where we can sit back and be like, this is really good. This is good.
Yeah.
And even, exactly to what Pam was saying, like run towards the fear. when you sit with that fear of what will life be without them, or what if I didn't have them, and you sit with that fear and you get to sit with, no, actually, it's really good to just face that fear and to be present again and to be like, you know what? That's not even important. What's important is that I have it right now.
And her talking about running to the places that scare you uh, helped me in my career,
Mm-hmm.
because I was often scared
Yeah.
and, and letting go, saying the prayer of St. Francis, uh, and
Doing it
doing it.
anyway.
I beg pardon?
Doing it anyway.
Yeah, yes, yes. So it allowed me to, go up and be me and share what, I knew at the time. Um, Letting go of being the authority on something is a good challenge, a good life lesson, you know.
You said it's a good challenge because when I was working and I used to travel a lot around the US, I was in Kansas one, and in the window was this cushion that said, it's not my fault that I just always know the right answer. And I always come back to that. I'm like, oh, I'm not trying to be controlling. I'm not trying to be authoritarian, but I know.
But my ideas are just better.
Like, I just know.
Yes. Yeah.
And it is
And
a
then
challenge. It is a challenge to really soften in that moment and be like, let this play out as it should.
I had a guy who cried when he met me for the first time at a religious uh, gathering, new way, and because he said I changed his life. And so in my orbit, he was I liked him, and he's written a couple important books, but he's younger and looked up to me. And then I he posted something about when Barney Frank died, that he was the first gay person to be elected to Congress. And I said no. In my reply, I said no, Gary Studs was. Um, and he was reelected as a gay person before Barney Frank ever came out. Well, he slapped me down, saying all historians agree. And I thought, that's not true. But you know what? I'm going to let go of the rope.
Yeah.
First of all, I was startled to be responded to in that way by somebody who I thought would never, do that. But, um, but I thought, I'm not going to fight with you about this. Uh, you're right, and I know I'm right. And we'll let the historians in the future sort it out because it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
I
And
think,
and and so letting go of being uh in some people's minds the high priest or the witch doctor or the teacher or whatever, the shaman, all the things this guy years ago told me I was, a medium told me I was, letting go of that and realizing it's not true for an increasing number of people. That's a really important life lesson.
I feel like as we evolve and become more curious about consciousness, it's easier to be more allowing and more accepting of other people's versions of events. And I don't know if you've heard about this, it's called the Mandela effect, where
What again?
the Mandela, as in
Okay.
Nelson Mandela, the Mandela effect. And what it basically means is that people have different ideas of history and they will die on their hill for this. And it's called the Mandela effect because there is a very clear divide of people that have different ideas of when Mandela was released from prison.
Uh-huh.
And there are people that are like, nope, it happened in the 80s. There are people like, nope, it happened in the 90s. And they're very like, they will literally like argue the point and believe they're really, really right until like somebody shows them like an historical document and then they're just like, oh my God, how did I get that wrong? And so
Uh-huh.
it's called the Mandela effect. It happens, it's like there's, if anybody wants, you can Google it, but there's several examples of how these things in history have two completely opposing sides to it.
In the US, it's whether or not uh, the election was stolen from Donald Trump when he was beaten in his run for president. You know, he was a denier. He did not believe he lost. And then there's a growing number of people who started to believe him. And it's so ridiculous because you have ballots, you know, that prove otherwise. And but it's about the same thing, Haley. We don't need to talk about Trump, but it's about believers and what happened.
Mhm.
No, that didn't happen. This is what happened.
Right.
No, you're wrong. And if you keep pushing this, I'm going to shoot you.
And I think it's, you know, I think the allowing part is just being able to, you know, accept that that's a possibility. You
It
know,
is.
people have a very strong belief to a knowing that something happened because that's their movie, that's their story. And like, are you going to run around with your book of facts every single day? Or are you just going to be like, you go, I'm
Yeah,
okay.
and if you run around with your books of facts, you miss the butterfly
Hmm. And you miss the cone.
and you miss the cone because that's not part of your agenda.
Yeah.
It's not my job to do that cone. Whoever tipped it over should be putting it back up.
Or there should be somebody who owns the cone should be checking the cones and putting it back up.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I think it's, you know, as we said, like human experience is so humbling and it really, we get to choose always, regardless of our circumstances, regardless of anything that's going on, we get to choose how we want to experience it. Do we want to be on that forceful doing side or do we want to be on the being allowing side? And I think when we look at the books that anybody can read, they all tend to point to move towards the allowing and the softness.
Let me give you a question that I would love having an answer to. I recently posted a meditation that we choose our thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and that I choose to think about think positively
Mm-hmm.
uh, and look for joy. Well, tons of people responded that yes, yes, I'm not doing very well, but yes, yes. And then I got a response of tell that to the person who's in constant chronic pain, whose only relief is 5 minutes when they take the big pain pill. Tell it to them. And I said, because that was her, you know, and I said, you know, I always worry when I post. This is a back and forth on
Mm-hmm.
Facebook. I always worry when I post that my reflection is not going to fit the life of the person who's reading it and may cause disturbance, may cause pain, and that mortifies me. But yes, I said I don't have the experience of being, I mean, I'm in pain all the time, but I don't have her pain and I
Mm-hmm.
can't, right? And so I said, you know, you need to teach us. Um, and she wrote back something, and that I wrote back and said, you know, I don't know if you'll find any joy in this at all, but I'm lighting a candle to you today in your honor. Now that's the best I could get, best I could do personally.
Mm-hmm.
Going back and forth with her would be, she wasn't
No.
charging me. She likes me, she follows me, but she wanted me to know that you know, my putting out that we choose our thoughts. Um, I still believe that in even in that pain that you can breathe and say, thank you to the universe.
I agree with you. I'm well aware that people don't want to hear it
Hmm.
because it puts the responsibility on them. I think we're very trained to find blame.
Hmm.
And when you get off that blame truck and you have to take responsibility for your life and how you're feeling, then you realize all of that power is in your mind. And it is in what are you thinking and what are you feeding. And I am grateful that at this point in my life, I don't have chronic pain 24/7. I've experienced pain. Just this last week, my back went out and I couldn't walk because it was so painful.
Mm.
You know, that kind of pain where you lose your breath and your face contorts.
Mm.
I've had that, but I also realized that, okay, I can just sit in this and just be like, oh my God, this sucks. The pain is so bad. Or I can just breathe and try my best to relax my body, to calm the muscles, to bring some light in there, and to just try and calm as much as possible. I had control over that. This is the way that I choose to live. Well aware that I can also choose to just sit in the pain and be like, this sucks.
Life sucks.
Life sucks. And is this ever going to go? I'm well aware of that because I've experienced those crossroads many times in my life. For me, what works for my life, what I've experienced, choosing the lighter thought, choosing the thought of light. And it's difficult. Like when you're in a place of great physical pain, of great mental pain, of anguish, it's really difficult to choose the light. But
Well,
for me, it's difficult. I know I just have to do it. That's where, Pema Chodron comes in, is like face the fear and just do it. Get to the light.
and Viktor Frankl, talking about the people in the concentration camps. How do you find joy in a concentration camp? How do you survive it? Uh,
Mhm.
and that brings to mind to me the people who all over the United States are in ICE detention centers for nothing other than being from another country.
Or the color of
Uh,
the skin.
yes, that's the first thing they go for, because the objective is to have everyone be white in the United States.
Mhm.
But how to find joy when you're surrounded by people who are moaning in despair.
Exactly.
Their baby was taken away from them. Yeah, their husband, their partner, whatever, that they can't see any future whatsoever where there's happiness. How do you find happiness in that moment? One, when want to reach out and take away the pain that your person in the cot next to you is experiencing, or on the floor, uh, or do you focus instead on why there is still good reason for you to find joy in life?
I think
And maybe they're not exclusive.
I I don't think that they're exclusive because time and time again, history tells us people that have gone through extraordinary trauma have always said that their way through it was faith, was finding the light, having hope.
Hmm.
And I think, again, we have to kind of sit back with a bit of humility and be like, maybe there's something to this whole positive thinking thing,
Hmm.
and light. But I also think that everything that I speak of my own experience. In this lifetime, at this point, I haven't experienced that kind of trauma. I've seen some of it firsthand where it just hit me on the back, on my back, and like I lost my wind and I was just like, holy shit, this is real. And I think, for me immediately is I always try and go to the highest thought. I wish better for these people. I wish the time comes where we're all free. I wish the time comes really quickly that there's no such thing as borders. I wish for the better state always. Um, I can't even imagine how, again, I've had close experiences with people that have had terminal cancer, died of cancer. I've had experiences of people that were refugees. I haven't experienced it myself. So I don't know what I would do in that situation. I don't know how long it would take me to get my head right. I just hope that I would get my head right.
Mm. And
Like, I
emerge
feel
as a
like I
hero
know myself enough to say that eventually I'd get my head right and I would choose to have faith.
to emerge as a healer. At some
Yeah,
point,
just
at
as a
some
beacon
point,
of light.
you check in with yourself and you say, okay, I'm okay.
I'm
And
okay.
and if this is all the rest of my life is, you know, I accept it and I'm going to make the most of it. Right. But I'm going to spend my time trying to do what I can to make my neighbor's life a little easier.
Yeah, and just to be a source of kindness or a source of just peace, because I do believe in frequency and vibrations. And I believe that if you are in a place of peace, that extends. And the person next to you, without even realizing, will calm down a little bit or have a little bit of peace. If I can contribute to their peace in that way, I'm going to do my best to do that. That
Yeah.
will be my motivation. I don't
I,
need them to say thank you. I feel peace because you're vibing high up there.
I saw a piece this morning. I don't know if it was in the New York Times, uh, but in a Palestinian camp, a woman was teaching the other women self-defense. She was teaching them a form of karate, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And because women in not just in the camp, but in life in general, are abused by men who think of them as lesser.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is an attempt to raise their confidence and their ability to deal with the world more effectively, at least in terms of their own safety. So it's one person who stepped forward to say, I'll teach you what I know.
There's always ears ready to listen. And I think this is, the humility again of the human experience. We can choose to focus on everything that's wrong and all the people that are perhaps doing things that we don't agree with, or we can choose to focus on the people that are doing things that we do agree with and highlight their story and be motivated by their stories. For me, it's that side. I much prefer to look for the heroes.
Uh-huh. And see yourself as one.
No, I think that's part of the whole sage thing is that we never really acknowledge the sage that we are.
Yes. We don't acknowledge that we've made the hero's journey several times.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not one time.
No, it's continuous.
You go out, you face the adversity, the lesson, come back, but you are called to go out again
Mm-hmm.
and again and again. And so you at some point in the middle of the night, it's okay then to whisper to yourself, you're a hero.
Yeah, did a good job today.
You did a good job in life so far,
Mm-hmm.
and you really are the person you hoped to be
Yeah,
when you were little.
isn't
There's
that
no,
cool?
huh?
Isn't that cool?
It's very cool. Uh, that to be able to say to your younger self, uh, you're going to grow to this point. You're going to have lots of experiences, uh, but you're going to be, a really useful person uh, in the lives of other people
Mm-hmm.
because of who you are
And what you've experienced.
and what you will experience.
Which I think, comes back to that point. You can believe that everything that we experience is terrible and we have no control.
No,
Or you can look back and be like, it didn't feel great, but look who I am because of it.
Yeah, and this may be foolishness, but I look back without regret,
Hmm.
and I look back through uh, a positive, upbeat attitude. I don't think about the bad stuff. I don't wail about being fired for being gay and all the trauma that caused.
Hmm.
Not just me, my parents.
How it just
Yep.
changed your life and you weren't able to
And,
achieve what you wanted to
yeah,
do.
but I don't look back and regret or am traumatized. I'm not traumatized by anything anymore.
I agree with you. I feel like I do have fears, but I
Hmm.
don't feel like they've traumatized me. The trauma of it no longer holds such a paralytic fear.
Hmm.
It's more of a, we can move through this. We can move through this. There's better on the other side.
There are people who are traumatized at this moment by what's going on in their country.
Hmm.
And that's all they can think about. It's all they can talk about, how horrible things are and how it didn't used to be like this. It used to be so much better.
Hmm.
But the time they're allowing themselves to be traumatized is what they're giving up in terms of time to live
To live,
and
and I think,
and
and also they're training themselves to look for every reason to be angry, every reason to validate that their anger is just.
yeah. And that's why some respond so negatively
Yeah.
to the statement that you choose your thoughts.
We choose our thoughts, we are the creator of our experience, and we have full control over
It's true that thoughts come into your head that are unpleasant
it.
and
Hmm.
not things that you don't want to think of yourself that way.
Yep.
And so I didn't choose that thought, but I can choose not to pay attention to it.
Yeah, I can choose not to feed it.
Yes.
And I think, there's in every moment and every day we make choices. And I think it's very much like, what are you choosing to create? What are you choosing to put your attention on? What are you choosing to highlight in your life? And we all have access to our telephones. Our telephones are literally tools of sensationalism. It's there to create fear. It's there to create sort of a dependency and a necessity.
Yeah. I only use my phone to call uh, people who have called me. I don't ever use it for any other purpose. I carry it with me in case I need an SOS.
Yeah.
That's all.
And
It's
I
the only
think,
reason.
but again, I think that's you making a choice. This is what I need to stay in my zone.
Uh-huh.
Because at any moment you can go onto any of the social medias and just go down to this warped, and then you're having to like pull yourself back out of that. That's not
Yep.
you putting your head in the sand and choosing to be ignorant. That's just you saying, I'm aware that there's stuff going on. I'm also aware that I have an impact to make today.
And I'm aware that for me, what's going on is toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a drug would be toxic. It would take me places I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
I'm just human. I
It's
can be
so hard to
affected
come
by it.
back from too.
Yeah.
It's so hard to like, once you go there, you still have to make the journey back. And that's so difficult. And I think, again, Martin Luther King, like, hate doesn't kill hate. Love is the only thing that, like, calms the hate and pacifies the hate. And again, if you're choosing your thoughts that I see hate, so therefore I hate,
Hmm.
you're not doing anything good. You're just perpetuating it. Don't complain.
And I think you can hate something without it dominating your life. I can hate the way a particular religious group interprets the Bible, right? I can find it totally contrary to what I believe the Bible is about. So I can feel hate for something, for the behaviors of people. Hating the person themselves is an easy out.
That's the blame game again.
It is. It's, you're a bad person.
Not
I
my
don't know
fault.
how else. Huh?
It's not my fault you're a terrible person. You're the
It,
devil.
yeah, you've chosen to be this. And I'm sorry for you. You can't go that way. You know, I feel sorry. I feel sad for those who haven't had the opportunities to think outside the box like I've had. I've had teachers and authors and all kinds of influences that helped me get out of my Roman Catholic, box.
They helped, but they didn't make the choice for you. You made
No, they
the
didn't.
choice.
They just
And I
gave me
think
the
every
option.
in this day and age, and I know we're out of time, but I think in this day and age where we are, May 28th, 2026, there is no excuse to be stuck in a box. We have so much information, and especially with AI now that can just sort through all of that information so quickly. There's no excuse to be stuck in a box. We have so much information to be curious about and to open our minds. It really does come down to a choice. Are you going to open your mind or are you going to stay in your box?
Are
And
you going to make the hero's journey to
yeah,
leave the box? That is the hero's journey, is to take responsibility for yourself.
mhm. Take responsibility for your thoughts, words, and actions.
Uh-huh. So are we out of time? I didn't
We've
realize.
got 3 minutes to wrap it up, Brian. So bring it back full circle.
Yeah, full circle to the guys in Boston who didn't know what I had done when I was there. Yeah,
But we're
and
still there to listen to you.
yeah, and they appreciated it,
Mhm.
and they won't forget the stories I told them.
And that's
Uh,
the thing. It's like they were willing to pay the price of their life, like time in
mhm.
their life, to spend it with you.
Uh-huh.
And I call that the privilege of time. They realized that it was a privilege to listen to you, to learn from you.
I don't think they knew it when they walked in the room.
I
You
think
know, I think they got it once I started talking.
I think
Uh,
they for them to be there, they realized what a privilege it was.
yeah. Well, they also had snacks served.
They were bribed with food.
Yeah, well, it is. They have snacks and they have a meeting and they have
We're
raffles
all
and
just toddlers
all
that
kind.
need snacks and nap time.
Yeah, I was just a side dish.
But you know what? Some of us are all about the side dish.
Yes, we are. Yep.
The main dish is
So,
never that interesting. It's always the sides.
yeah, the side dishes don't get beat up as much as the main course.
That is true. This is how we
Oh,
just live peacefully. We're just happy being side dishes.
yes. All right, honey, I'll see you in 2 weeks.
I will see you in 2 weeks, Brian, sending you lots of love and peace.
Lots of love. It's
And I
fun
can't
to
wait to see.
it's so fun to laugh with you,
It is fun.
especially at the end. Laughter is
Especially
a
when we
gift.
have moments where we're like, dude, we're just toddlers.
And I'll send you soon a summary of this if I can.
I look forward to it. Lots of love to you, Brian. We'll
Okay.
talk soon.
Bye, honey.
Bye.